we do stuff like that, but there's just really nothing for the kids. But all we're asking is if we could just partner with the school, maybe have a couple events up here a year on the school property, and that would be like, you know, that's what we're here for, just to ask that question. So, if anybody has any questions?
You can see it all. One of the questions I had is this going to be something that we would do this 4th of July? Will it be ready in time?
I would really like to pull something together so we could have something up here, you know, at the school for the kids. I do know that 2 years ago, we had a bunch of jumpy houses and they were outside, and we had a couple people that donated money and supported us on that. And
Susie, are you thinking that the school would sponsor this event and do, you know, organize it and stuff? We would just provide the space?
The chamber and our volunteers would do that.
So how would the liability work on something like that?
The liability, we're in the process right now of getting liability insurance, and the liability end of it, we just need some grounds to rotate it and have it up here.
Do you envision an indoor facility or outdoor?
No, we would like to have it outdoors.
Okay.
Would you need the opportunity to have it indoors if the weather is nice?
Yes, if the weather, yes, we would like to have that.
Okay. Would you want to use the restroom facilities regardless?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
One of the things, and I asked Susie to come after she called, you know, we had talked about what things have we maybe had here on campus in years past, and it seems like we've had a car show here on school grounds. You know, there's some things that are on school grounds, but also in the village and in the surrounding area, like Dalmac. And the more we talked, the more I thought this might be, you know, a neat opportunity for the school to help coordinate with the chamber and local businesses as well, and kind of get together on some events that might need either parking or a bigger space, you know, to put a function together. So.
And excuse me, but one of the other things is we have a huge down on the school grounds for the fireworks, and there's the Ryan Shaved and they run. They're there. The churches get together and put on a concert, and so what we do as the chamber is we do all the advertising. We put everything on the web page, but whoever like helps us out to sponsor, not sponsor monetary sponsorship, but just by a sponsorship, then we also say it's sponsored by essentially public schools, or you know, or sponsored by you know, different events we put on, like the churches.
Susie, I commend you for thinking about this, because I know from last year the biggest complaint was, okay, the parade's over, what do we do with our kids now? And somebody had advertised something at the Blue Pelican, and then that didn't happen, and people were just very, very upset here in town.
I mean, the events we put on, some people think majority of them are for adults, but they forget about the kids. And my main thing is not me personally, but yeah, me personally, I want to focus on the kids. They're growing up, they're volunteerism, you know, that's where we have to start someplace, so that's why we're here.
So, Melanie, do you think the PTO would be interested in helping out here?
Honestly, no. They've talked about it, and we can't get the volunteers.
Yeah.
We've got like 2.
Yeah, and I had a question related to volunteers. So if you had an event at the school, when it comes to getting people involved in volunteering and helping, how much could the chamber pull in addition to what we could do to help? Because like Melanie said, we're always strapped for people to do everything and to add other events on.
We have a strong core, and Melissa can comment on this. Those of us that volunteer our service, we put a lot of hours into these events. And if we could just get 2 people from the people, you know, it doesn't have to be an all-day thing. It's maybe like 1 hour or 2 hours, you know. And that's what we have asked, you know, everybody in our group to do. And so when you, instead of approaching it as a 4-hour event, if you approach it as a 1-hour event, or maybe can you help us for a couple hours? That's where we find
Is-
that we
Yeah.
get the support.
Is it possible too, I just heard Shelley mentioning the student council or the NHS kids that
We have all the
could
kids
that
getting ready for
apply to
these.
their hours
Yes,
that they.
yes, it
These
does.
volunteer hours.
Yes, it does, and we already had we had the assembly
Mm-hmm.
at the school. We have already had students that step up to the plate and help clean the cabin, the chamber cabin. We've had them step up to help with the car show, car, truck, and motorcycle show. They want to help, they just need a little direction.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're here for, is to help get this younger group up and going to help us out.
Start them early.
And that was a great idea, was for their volunteerism.
I
And
know
I have already signed 2 letters, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, in Boyne Falls, I know that they do, each class has a booth during their
Yes.
event, whatever, I think they do a Polish festival or something, and
I'm-
they, each class is responsible for a different thing, and
Game or something, you mean, like a
yeah,
game?
yeah, they each
Yeah.
do a.
Whatever, and that would be their own, money maker. We're not here to make money.
Right.
That's not, we're here to put on events for the community. We already have, our 2 main events that we have that supplies for the fireworks is our membership drive and our silent auction. That's the only thing that we make money on, and then that pays for our fireworks. And our fireworks are about $10,000 a year. So that's where we're at with that, but to get back to volunteerism, if we could get, a couple people, and I know 4th of July, everybody wants to go to the beach and do things, but everybody has tried to keep people in town. And I'm sorry, but you can't keep these adults in town because they're heading out of town. I've stood and I've watched them and watched them, they come from the parade. But if there's events for the children, for the kids will want to participate in, we just want to do stuff. That's what we're here for.
So what do you need from us, Susie?
What we need for you guys, if we could get it, is just property. Oh, just
Well, that's-
Space.
and as I think about it, I commend you for this, bringing this to our attention, I think it's a great idea. We open up the facility anyway, every year, for the parade route and things like that. I mean, so I think, I don't think opening up our restrooms is not a big deal at all, and gymnasium or any sort of campus property. And, and granted, it's not a classroom or whatever.
Right,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
we do it every year, and I think it's a no-brainer, really, to be quite
Well,
honest.
and the
Thank
other
you.
thing too is, look how successful that we just talked about the carnival was.
Right.
I mean,
And family movie night. I
people
mean,
are looking
Yeah.
for things
Yeah.
to do with their
things to bring their
kids.
kids to. Yeah, absolutely.
And to be honest with you, we have probably about 12 really strong volunteer supporters that help us out. Now, as if they don't want to help us on some events, that's fine. But a lot of them will step up for the car, truck, and motorcycle show. Some of them will step up to the parade. In fact, we have, 3 teachers that step up and say, oh, we'll help that day. The car show, they start from 7 to 10. After 10 o'clock, there's nothing to do, so, so that's where we're at with that. So it has to be a win-win situation for all of us, but our main thing is what we're looking at is space, is property. Plus, we want to stretch out here just a little bit. So you get people here and, so it's not all just an enclosed one area. So I appreciate your comment on that.
So, Susie and I can coordinate, so.
Okay, fine. Sarah, how do you feel about this?
Oh, I'm fine with it.
Tracy?
Awesome, I think the same goals make Central great.
No? Great.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing, just #1 rules of business, keep the kids here. And I think that's a great goal, is keep the kids in town, your parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and everything else that come up for the weekend. Fantastic, yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Betsy, you good with it? I am too, so if you and Den just get together and
Okay.
arrange whatever you need to arrange, and, if you need to call on some of us as volunteers.
Okay.
You've got my number.
Yeah.
Susie, volunteer.
I am a volunteer. Are they aware of what I do?
Well, we appreciate that very much. We appreciate your support, every one of you. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you guys for the time.
Okay. Who else would like to make a comment? Lois?
I just had a little blurb. Some time ago, Ben and I, we talked about photographing the alumni photos that are lining the hallways. We got part of them. Joyce came back and got another big part. The issue was with the lighting and our flashes, and we ended up in the end actually taking them down and putting them back up. So at this point, I think Joyce and I probably have maybe 80 to 90% of those photos. Our goal was to have it done by the time the yearbooks came out so we could sort of sell all this stuff together, but that's just not going to happen. So after we get all the photos ready, I'll lay it out and turn it into a yearbook, and then at some point we'll sell it maybe in the fall or whatever, and, you know, decide who's going to get the money, how we pay for it, but we think that'd be really cool to have. You know, I would love it if we could have it done by 4th of July, because everybody's going to be here. We could be selling them out, you know, get your yearbook, $10, whatever. Nothing fancy, not a hard covered item, you know, ideally something we can print locally, but that has all those pictures from the 30s right up till today. Nothing, you know, some of the words when we take the photos are pretty not readable. So we're gonna have to spend some time to recreate and type those out. So the dream of having it done sooner just sort of fizzed out on us, but it's not dead. We just wanna use a little more time. You know, if we could do it by the 4th, that'd be great. Otherwise, probably shoot for the fall. And then the next thing, we're doing an extra kind of big Central Lake News this issue. We're combining the May and June because we had Memorial Day, car show, graduation. So with that said, I'd like to invite Ben or Shelley or anybody to do good job seniors letter for the paper. We're gonna run the composite of the graduation like we did last year, you know, the big picture. We're gonna make it a little bigger. We'll put it in the center spread this time. And ideally we're going to the printer on Wednesday, so gotta hurry to do that.
As in like the day after
Have
tomorrow?
You gotta hurry.
Have the letter done by midnight.
Right, by midnight. All
right.
And that's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anything else? Well, thank you for coming. Bye-bye.
She didn't want to leave.
No, should do.
Because we're so interested.
Tuesday at midnight.
Oh,
Tricia, did
I'm
you have
relaxing all day tomorrow.
Oh, well, we went on a field trip, that was really fun.
I heard about this.
Yeah, our preschool classroom went on a walking downtown field trip, so we luckily got a good day in the midst of the rain, we had a nice day. We walked down and we stopped in front of all the buildings and just very briefly talked about what each business did and what would you do. The funniest one was at the bank, what is this building for? This is where we get suckers. So that was pretty funny. So we stopped at all of them and just talked about the functions. We also talked about like the street signs and what they were for, and you know why do we have to do certain things as a community? Why do we have to stop so that we don't plow into each other, you know, and on the streets? Why do we walk on sidewalks? Oh, so we don't get run over by the cars. You know, just these very basic things we take for granted. It was really good to explain them to the kids all together. We also went to Thurston Park and spent some time playing there, and that was just incredibly joyful. And then we went to the library, and we had a nice tour and story time, and I think we got all the books put back where they were on the shelves. There was a little bit of shelf pulling there going on, but really nice, really a great event where they all seemed to enjoy it. It just went well from start to finish, so it was great. I think we had 5 parents or grandparents with us, so it was a nice turnout of help. And all but one child was able to go with us. He was really sick, so he couldn't join us. But it was great, and you know, I'm hoping that we can do that again in the future. It was fun. So, and
I
it led
know
to
about it, and I think the kids really enjoyed it.
good. Yeah, it led to I think a better connection for them. A lot of them said, you know, yeah, I've never been in there. No, I've never walked downtown really. So, you know, it was kind of interesting to me that I think as you know, parents and grandparents are going about their errands, they'll take kids with them, but they don't really walk the whole downtown or explain what's going on in all those buildings. So it demystified it for them, I think, which was nice. So hopefully they came out of it feeling more connected to Central Lake.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
I was gonna say too, just as
Okay.
the teachers really appreciated all the appreciation last week from all of you, so thank you very much.
Yes.
So,
for sure.
A treat a day. You know,
Treat a
the board-
day.
The board worked hard, thank you all.
To go on to, we have no old business to, I would accept a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of the board meeting on April 14th and the special meeting on April 21st. You've had a chance to look at them?
Any motion?
Okay, it's been made and seconded. Are there any?
Who's second?
Greg?
Oh, huh?
Greg.
Greg and then Betsy.
Greg motioned and then you said you motioned.
You two? Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
Betsy and Greg.
Oh,
I don't
it's
know, I
Betsy
just,
and-
I only heard it and it went through.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Motion is carried. Moving on to a review of the expenditure log and the April bills. Are there any comments or questions? Anything come up? You've had a chance to look at them?
Ben, did you get an answer on
I
that?
did,
PTO
because
thing?
when I went looking for Michelle, she's been working the track meet all day, so I haven't gotten that answer. I know I gave you
Okay.
the one answer.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure on that, so.
Yeah, and I'll
Okay. Yeah, I
find
saw
out.
that.
And what was the amount you had asked about?
I didn't have a chance to go back and look
Okay.
at the amount, but I just wondered if, because the check was made out to the PTO.
Right,
And so I just
right.
wondered if it was just funds being transferred in and out, or
Yeah,
what it was.
I might be able to, like to our PTO?
Yeah.
I know the after-school program sponsors kids in the 5K. Was it about like $120 or
Might have
$120?
been, yeah, I don't remember.
The after-school program has always opened it to those after-school kids, and they pay their entry fee for the
Oh,
fun
neat,
run for
okay.
the 5K. And we had they had quite a few this year, but I want
Neat.
to say, if that's the check, it was like $120 or $140.
Okay.
And it's the after-school program
I know it said,
funding runners.
I think it said PTO, but in the memo notes, it wasn't like anything.
T and I probably saw it, knew what it was.
Right, right, so,
So
but I'll
that's most
confirm
likely
that.
what it is.
Okay,
I'll confirm that, Tracy, and then
okay.
let you know.
Shall we go ahead and approve them anyway?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
You're okay with it?
Yeah.
All right. I will entertain a motion to approve the April bills as presented.
I will.
All right.
And second?
It has been moved and seconded. If there's no more discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion is carried. Okay, we have a couple discussion items. And the first one, Tracy, you brought this up. Do you want to go ahead and tell us about
Sure,
it?
well, I know in the past, we've talked many times about having a workshop meeting,
Many times.
and it never seems to happen. And after our last meeting, it just really brought it to the forefront. I thought that we really should have one, even if it's just a quick, and no need to discuss much. But, we spent, a good hour, going back and forth on the lawn care information, and that really should have been done in a workshop type setting, so that we could all express our opinions without, it's a public, it's open, it's not, it's not a private session. But I just think rather than bringing that, when we come here, we should be approving and saying yes or no. And that where if that workshop session will give us time to really bring our thoughts out and be able to, express our opinions with a little more time and so forth. So I know Sue, you went to meet, and Greg, I think you guys heard about that when you went to those school
Yeah,
board meetings.
I'm all for efficiency and, anything like that. How many were you envisioning throughout the year? I mean,
Well, I was-
regularly or
Well,
like 2 or
just
3
to
a year?
give an example, where my sister works, they do a workshop meeting the day before the board meeting. So, or not, they might not do Monday nights, I'm not sure, but they meet at 7 o'clock in the morning, and they do like maybe an hour, but it's all that, they don't, there's not the, the public comment and that kind of thing, it's just the discussion items. They bring them up, and then, or things they're gonna have to vote on or so forth. They bring them up, let the board discuss, and then, you already know then pretty much, I mean, you can change your mind, of course, but you pretty much kind of know where you're gonna be when you come up for the vote. You have a chance to, really understand, because sometimes I think the items come up and we may have a strong opinion about it, but you don't really have a chance to talk about it because, you don't want to slow down the meeting. I know I feel that way sometimes. So, I mean, I know we all put a lot of time in and all of that. but-
Melissa, did you have a?
If you're all meeting in a quorum, how would that affect the open meetings thing? Would you still
It
need to
would be
take
open.
minutes and,
Yeah, it would be an open meeting, just like this is.
well,
Yeah.
no, that's what I'm saying, but if that's the case, are you still required to take minutes of what you
I don't know what the
discussed
rules are.
and?
Then
If you have a meeting, you have minutes, and you call the meeting to order, and then you may not have any action items.
Right.
If you just had some items that were topics of discussion, but you'd have to have a public comment session in there, and so the meeting would be, or the agenda would be, compressed, but
Right.
it would look and feel a lot like a regular meeting.
And there was concern raised, I believe, by Michelle when this first came up, and you weren't here to hear that. If you want to express that, you can, or I can reiterate it. It's up to you.
Sure. Just, I think having the public being able to attend it, I mean, it makes a little bit more sense now when you're talking about, but then, like if it's at 7 o'clock in the morning, if it's going till, 8 or 8:30, is the public going to be able to attend that? They're on their way to work, just that people come to the meetings to hear that part of it as well and hear that discussion. So that's, as a, community member and part of the staff, I mean, that's a concern. I'm talking for kind of both parts right now, that would be a concern, that it almost might feel like you're shutting out people, and I know you don't mean that.
No,
But,
it's more for a time frame than anything, that you come in, you bring up the items. I mean, there's always still options to bring up the reasons or whatever. But it just, when there's something that's, more business involved than what you have time for maybe like there's been times we've been here till 10, 11 o'clock at night. And, if we had 2 hours on a separate time where we just discussed that, I mean, it is more common to do that than what we do. And I don't know, another thought that I had with that as well is we don't do committee meetings, and would that help? If we started getting back to doing committee meetings, would that help us with that kind of stuff as well?
Right, because
I
that
don't know.
decision really could have been buildings and grounds.
Right,
And then they could have had the big discussion and then brought a recommendation.
right.
And if you had questions when we got our agenda and saw the recommendations, then you call somebody on the board and say, well, what was the discussion?
Mhm.
I think that's valuable. I think, we have two things. We want to keep the board meetings moving, so they're not going till 10, but yet we want to allow people, and we want to be transparent so people see the discussion. But I've always found that I really like Robert's Rules of Order, and if you just follow those, you're not going to discuss it until somebody makes a motion. So, make a motion, and then if we don't like it, we vote on it or something like that. So you have a bunch of discussion. But I wasn't here for the meeting, so I don't know. But I suspect it's like, sometimes you can't follow that, but you don't discuss something unless there's a motion on the floor. And if nobody's prepared to say, I support so-and-so, then somebody has an opinion.
Well,
and
you table it, and that's another thing.
Yeah, and tabling isn't a bad thing either. I
No,
don't think we
it
should
gives
feel bad
people
about
time to think
tabling
about
it.
it,
Mhm.
and certainly it was a good thing with that discussion.
Well, yeah.
But the bottom line for me here is that I think we as a board have worked hard to make open discussions and to make it so that people feel comfortable coming in and saying things, that we don't appear that we've already made up our mind about stuff. And I think that's important that we have these discussions. And I think generally we haven't had overly late meetings. That one was different. It was a surprise issue.
Well, I mean, so here's my thought, and Tracy, thank you for bringing this up. This has been, I've kind of noticed the same thing. We're redundant and we're slow to action on some items, and you know, it does seem like, and then the idea of bringing back committee meetings, I think, is a great idea, because that again would be efficient on things. You know, and I recall, Sue, and forgive me if I'm wrong on my days, but we used to do like board retreats, and we used to meet. You know, there used to be two meetings a month.
And see, that's what we've talked about, is having the board retreats.
Yeah, but the thing with that one is they're poorly attended because it's another meeting, you know, for everybody and all that. If I had yeah, and if I had to make a suggestion, I'm kind of the same with Betsy. Let's follow Robert's Rules of Order, but there's nothing in the law that says we can't we're only doing a 10-minute discussion on this action item and speak your piece or forever, because we're moving here and we're not going to bog ourselves down in a hour and a half long about who's cutting the damn grass, you know, so.
Well,
and that could be something that we, yeah, okay, forgive me, but that's what it came out to be, and, you know.
But I don't wanna get in a position where we can't have an open discussion for a while if we need it. But perhaps some sort of a rule where we hit a point where we say this should be in a workshop, this should be tabled, or you know, we could build that into the meetings, you know, so that we do move along, but at least we have those options.
And I was
To
trying
say,
to
I
do
don't,
that.
you know, if we have something to talk about, we should talk about it.
Exactly, and you know, I maybe have gone overboard in trying to let discussions go on as long as somebody had something to say. I think maybe that any one of us, not just me, can be responsible for that, because, you know, I tend to.
We can be snatched.
Okay.
Well, and that was not the reason
You're
for
just
bringing it up, it was just that, you know, you want to make sure that everybody has a chance to express their opinion, and it will be in the minutes, and it will be, and, you know, I would hate for us to be getting along and looking at the clock and saying, you know, well, let's just move
Sarah
this
doesn't
along.
know that.
Yeah.
I know, I was pretty good about being the time bandit.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are we at with this discussion?
I think where we're at is a consciousness of trying to keep the meeting moving, but let's try to, I'd like to have the discussion right now. So if we could keep our meetings and our discussions in the format without a meeting ahead of time, that keeps it open to the public. But as a board president, you need to be the time watcher, and you need to say, all right, people, I need a motion,
And if I'm not doing that, Betsy,
I will be glad to be.
Or Sarah.
I
don't know.
Or Sarah was perfect.
She was. Melanie, how do you think?
That works for me.
Okay. Greg?
Yeah, I like Betsy's recommendations. I really think we need to bring back committee meetings, so maybe 4 a year, 4
And if we even
subcommittee
had
and
2
so
of
forth.
those workshops we
Yeah,
were
if we
talking
even had
about.
Well, and maybe not so much workshops, just I think a lot of that, you know, I don't want to get hung up in the minutia of things. I want to get things done, and I think meeting in subcommittees is the best idea. You know, I know we kind of took away from that a couple of years ago because, you know, it always felt like, well, that decision was made before, you know, in committee, and then we brought it to whole board, and it was, you almost felt a little bit like, well, I guess that's the right move, you know, you didn't have all the information, but for the sake of, you know, our meetings and the trust we have in one another, I believe bringing back subcommittee meetings and would be my suggestion that we move forward.
And we talked about that committee of the whole too, right?
We did.
Yeah, so we could put it within that format if we decided, right?
And that anyone could come
How
to the
about
committee
if we-
meeting that.
If we
But you
keep
can't
that
have a whole.
flexibility.
Yeah.
Otherwise it'd be no.
Yeah.
Oh.
All committee meetings have to be, anyway, they have to be.
So you just have, that's fine.
Right.
They're supposed to be publicized ahead of time too.
They are.
A schedule at the beginning
Yeah.
of your year.
So
when they
if,
are, the dates and times.
okay. So if you were like on the Buildings and Grounds Committee, they would have the meeting, but I'm not on the Buildings and Grounds, I could attend as an audience, attendee or something like that, right? Or, I would know.
Sure.
Well, that's one of the things that it would be interesting to have, to not discuss tonight, to have a meeting, a workshop meeting sometime during the summer, and get some of these things straightened out. The committee of the whole is a workable idea. We just have to get it organized and do it.
And if I'm thinking correctly of what Wendy has told me, that's kind of what theirs is. It's like a committee of the whole meeting. I would describe it as that.
Right.
And they just, are able to,
But now, Michelle, are you saying that you think that those need to be scheduled ahead of time for the whole year?
The date and the time of each committee,
Yeah.
because they are an open meeting.
Right.
And those are supposed to be set, just like your regular board meeting schedule is supposed to be
Well,
set and
and-
posted, which I don't know that has happened.
It hasn't, because we've always had committee meetings when we felt we needed them.
they've
You know, if there was
always been posted though.
Always
But,
posted,
yeah,
always
but-
ahead of time.
But if we'd had them.
Yeah, Michelle, we've been real careful
We haven't
about
had
that,
them,
so.
we haven't had them, so.
Well, we haven't
but
had
back
it.
in- Yeah.
Well,
back
and
in-
there's, as far as the workshop goes, I don't know. I mean, I think no sense reinventing the wheel. Let's talk to MASB. What do other schools do? Let's follow the
Bring
different
your
model.
MASB person up and then
Yeah.
that person this summer, because it's a challenge with
Bring it over
your
to me.
schedules. I know, we've tried to get individual board members to go to CBA classes, and that's not always easy. I mean, everybody's got things going on, but maybe it's best to bring the presenter here and schedule that workshop session.
That's
And
a
Greg
good
and I-
idea.
Greg and I have
Let's
talked
let
about
the
that
expert
because they're-
come, the expert can give you the pros and cons of the committee as a whole, subgroups and some of these strategies, and then the board can make their decision. So,
Because we, lots of times are attending more than one meeting a month.
Oh, yeah.
Already, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Where we knew it was gonna be planned, we were gonna do this day and this day, this will be the,
And Melanie and Greg and I all saw some terrific presenters that would be more than willing to come and do that for us. So, will you look into that then?
sure.
Okay. Anything else on that subject? All right, then, going on to discussion item number 2. Ben, would you like to take over on that?
Yeah, in your packet, you have an elections update from Troon Law Firm. And I really put it down here as discussion item number 2, just no action needed, but really for the board to take a look at this document and begin to think individually and then collectively, what action the board would like me to take as your agent in preparing to communicate or not communicate anything related to the upcoming election in November. As you see, rather than reading through the whole packet, if you skip to the last paragraph on the first page down here where I put some scribble, it says, public notice of upcoming board elections petition filing deadlines for interested candidates are no longer the legal responsibility of the district. So it used to be the district had a duty to perform. You don't anymore. However, the recommendation is the district should consider identifying a process and then encouraging candidacy or the candidacy of qualified folks. And then they give you some suggestions. Either adopt a resolution that calls for the regular election, so it's in your minutes and it's discussed in an open meeting. Put an ad in the paper, have it put on the district website, and so forth. So this packet really is just that header, that introductory letter, and then on the back of the packet you see local school district deadlines. I know Greg has already been down and filed. The deadline is Tuesday, July 22nd. And so this basically is just a blueprint of how to, if you're an incumbent running again or if you're an interested party, how to get yourself involved and get on the ballot. The next sheet is duties and responsibilities of the candidate, the district, the county clerk, and the local clerk. And so pretty much it's just an informational packet, but I wanted the board to at least have an opportunity to look at that and then discuss. And like I said, no action item here. However, if the board wished to direct me on your behalf to run an ad or do something, we can definitely have an action item at the next month's meeting.
How many people are leaving the board?
How many people are up for election?
Yeah, that's what I'm-
There's 4 for this November.
Who?
Betsy, Sarah, Sue, and Greg. So that's that.
I think I would like to see some kind of ad in the paper, or some kind of advertising. Website, Facebook, satellite news.
I think it's a wonderful way to get involved in your school.
Well, and I think it's important to do it soon enough that people can think about it and
Right,
talk about
right.
it, and realize that that deadline is not like October or September.
No,
That
it's
they've got to be.
midsummer, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's thinking about other things midsummer, so
Yeah, right.
the
So I
deadline
think
comes
everything we
around.
could do for that, to promote that would be good.
Good.
Okay, moving on to action items. The first one is to consider a motion to approve the recommendation to hire Mrs. Jennifer Todd for the position of full-time English and art teacher. And we have part of her resume here.
Or a letter, yeah,
Letter of recommendation. And Michelle, would you like to?
They call me Michelle.
Pardon me?
Shocking.
Shelley?
I'm teasing.
I've called you all of it.
I know. This is true.
Shelley and I've known each other a long time.
Yes, we have.
Yeah, it was a very interesting, interesting series of interviews that we did, and we had some absolutely excellent candidates.
We did, yeah.
So, Shelley,
Who
would
was
you-
on the interview board? I'm sorry.
Michelle,
Michelle. Okay.
Shelley,
Okay,
Michelle,
that's where you
myself.
guys.
Ben.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you guys. I know that's a lot of hard work.
We had some long days,
Wow.
but we met some extremely amazing candidates.
Interesting. Do you want me to say anything, Sue, or?
Well, go ahead. I mean, have you read the things about her? Is anybody?
Did you guys read the
would like to
recommendation
know
yet?
more?
Sounds great.
We're extremely fortunate that we're able to find, and
English art was awesome.
all small districts try to do this. You try to find the dual or even the treble certificated individual and just have the most flexibility as you can, not only going into that year, but for years to come. So to find somebody of her caliber with English and art background, and fully certified, and just completing her master's in English language and literature, and experience teaching college freshman
I
English.
thought that's a big
That's
benefit,
huge,
yeah.
that's huge. So that's what she's doing right now at Central Michigan,
Yep.
her and her husband, and they are coming up. They couldn't be here tonight because they're moving out of, they're living in the residence hall on campus, but they'll be here May 17th, they'll be here this next weekend to house
Right.
hunt,
Yeah,
so.
well, she has experience in child development and activity center,
Oh,
and
yeah.
just so.
Oh, yeah.
just
About there.
lots of
We
different
felt it was a
Yeah.
pretty good fit, pretty good fit,
And if Keith were here, you'd see him celebrating because she also coaches volleyball.
yes.
So and I apologize, I missed a little conversation there, but, always comes in my head when we're looking at a double person like this, is we know she can do both at a highly effective part, right? I mean, when you're looking at two things like that, I would hate for anybody to not consider someone that would be better in another area. Do you understand what I'm saying? You
It
know?
wasn't dual, didn't have.
Didn't
the
have
dual.
the
Oh,
Yes,
absolutely,
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 yeah,
Of
yeah,
course, of
okay.
course.
Yeah,
No,
and you all felt that way, but,
She was,
Yes.
she was hands down at the top.
okay.
When does she plan on completing her master's, or when is that?
It's
not
done.
scheduled?
Yeah, it's
Oh, it
done,
is done,
this,
okay.
like this week, so.
Oh, it's done.
That's her.
She's moving to the area then?
Yes. Yep.
I knew they weren't understanding.
Three, 26.
No, we interviewed straight
No,
English,
just
straight
depends
art.
on the scale.
Okay,
And she
38,
was,
3.
yeah, and I know, because we
She
could
was
have
a
gone
combo.
part-time and part-time.
We could.
if We had to,
We could
right?
have.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
But you know, the challenge is with that part-time is getting someone to take that part-time.
Well,
We
yeah,
did
I
talk,
understand.
to some other folks who, one from Texas was quite a strong art candidate, but of course, said, I can't come unless it's full-time. Well, there's no way we're gonna be able to pull that off at
Right.
this point in time. So, yeah, we were thrilled, and, you know, her and her husband will be up this weekend looking for places to rent or buy, because someone has a house on the market, so it's exciting.
All right, I will consider a motion to approve the recommendation to hire Mrs. Jennifer Todd for the position of full-time English and art teacher.
I'll make that motion.
Or,
It has been motioned and supported. Is there any more discussion? Any more questions? All those in favor?
aye.
Opposed, the same. The motion is carried. Is she excited about coming?
Yes, very, very.
The next one, I will consider a motion to approve the recommendation to hire Mr. David Lintner for the position of part-time drafting. And this was a real find, I think.
We were concerned about, you know, drafting has been dormant for a year. It's been a difficult one to fill. You know, it's not easy to find someone with board drafting background, CAD and CAM, or CAD and AutoCAD, I should say, and then the most current training, the CNC mill and lathe and the 3- and 4-axis machining. And Mr. Lintner has experience with everything from the board drafting all the way through the most highly technical application of you know, computer-assisted machining and CAD with CNC mill and lathe. He has received numerous awards in Florida. Was originally hired in TCAPS, or Traverse City Area Public Schools, by Mike Murray, who's the retiring superintendent at Sutton's Bay. So I've had a chance to talk to Mike. His references come back extremely strong. Mr. Lintner has 5 children, and 4 are in the Traverse City immediate area, and so he's excited to get back closer to 80% of his kids. One of them is, I think, in Grand Rapids area. And so we're thrilled that he and his wife are coming back up this way, where most folks from Michigan go to Florida. He's coming back, so seems like a neat guy.
Are there any questions or comments? Then I will entertain a motion to approve the recommendation to hire Mr. David Lintner for the position of part-time drafting teacher.
A motion.
Support.
Who was that?
Betsy.
Sorry, I'm a little stuffed up. I'm not hearing.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion is carried.
Now, is the potential for a spin-off class with this too? I see he's certified, or he says taught in, you know, arc welding, excuse me, gas welding, any sort of woodworking, metal fabricating and all that. Is that a potential spin-off class here?
It is. It's not one that we were immediately looking at, but I did notice that he has experience doing just about everything in the building trades, bulkhead, whether it's wood shop, you know, metallurgy, welding, so forth, so on, which is nice as far as having that background. You know, and most importantly, with the recent CNC mill and lathe, he's a nice mesh or fit for the mobile lab for next year. So yeah, I think that will be a good partnership.
Yeah, I think that the spin-off would be advantageous for us, because CNC lab would be great, but what happens if it goes away?
Right,
It
right.
just gives us leadway into, you know, more of the trades programs.
Now, is this a retirement situation, or is?
Mr. Lintner is retired,
Okay.
so coming back to Michigan.
All right, moving on, as required by law, the local board of education is required to pass a motion to affirm the ISD budget. Ben, would you like to explain that?
You have in your packet the SHRM ISD budget for next year. It's a couple of pages there. Basically, they show the proposed budget at the top of the page, the 14-15. They show total revenues, total funds available to appropriate. And then that pretty much is the rest of it. The rest of the packet may just be an email from Jeff Kraus, the business manager, to all of the superintendents, making sure that local boards made sure that this adoption took place at the May meeting, and then we send a copy of our affirmative minutes showing that we approved that budget, and you've complied with the law.
Through this, was there any cuts or changes from what we've done in the past?
They have done a nice job of weathering the storm over the, and of course, I only have a 3-year history here, but I can go back further in discussions with either Jeff or with Rick Debo. Whereas the state in some areas has cut, like the reimbursable rate for example, special education staff, we capture a reimbursable percentage of that salary. And the state has cut that reimbursable figure from as high as 77%. So you were getting 77 cents on the dollar back at one point. Now it's dropped down into the high 20s. The SHRM has held locals, the 11 member districts, harmless at kind of a middle ground. It's around 55% reimbursable. So they've done a nice job of trying to ease the burden that would have otherwise come to the local districts because they have had a pretty significant fund balance. So I think they've really worked well with us, especially in that area, but in all areas as well. One of the most recent was the vocational technical millage that we voted through May the 6th, and I think we've been a good steward of that relationship, and they have as well.
Are there any more questions? Then I will consider a motion to approve the Sharon ISD budget as presented for the 2014-15 school year.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
And Greg? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Motion is carried. The next one is to consider a motion to approve the 4th grade trip to Mackinac Island. I wish I were going with them, and I hope the weather's nice.
I think they finally dispensed with the icebreakers, so yeah, they're a little late this year, but Mackinac Island trip is a go.
Okay.
I bet they don't have lilacs this year.
No, they
Probably not.
And I don't have.
I don't have that one on mine.
So I'll make a note
We-
that Michelle's got to add that on.
Yeah, I think she had done the minutes sheet before I finalized the agenda, and she.
All right, just make a note then.
So we just make a note, yeah.
Then I will consider a motion to approve the 4th grade trip.
I will.
Mel, is that you?
Yeah.
Support? Betsy? All those in favor?
I'd like to have a whole
Aye.
discussion real quick. Hold
Okay,
on.
sure.
Is, when is the date set for the Mackinac Island?
21, 22.
Well, no, I mean,
Oh,
I guess
beginning
as
of
far
the
as
year.
beginning of the year, okay. So, let's have a motion in April to do this one instead of May after it's been planned.
Well, the thing is, we discussed this before, we really need to have the motion be in September for the
Well,
following year.
whenever.
because
Let's have
it's
it
too
prior
late.
to,
It's too late to not approve it
you
now.
know,
And
All
we
the
have,
all the fundraising is
right,
taking place.
we've done
all the-
this,
Yeah.
I think 3 years we've discussed it.
Mm-hmm.
And it
And you-
actually is just,
You have to, because it's an overnight trip,
Oh.
so.
mhm.
well, sure, let's do it in September.
So can we do it in September? Would that be a problem,
There's no
Shelley?
reason you couldn't do it in September, sure.
That shouldn't be a problem.
It's
Okay.
usually September, October when he has his date, yeah.
I
That's-
doubt we're gonna disapprove it, but, you know.
Well, I don't either.
Right.
You feel, yeah.
Let's give them the
Yeah.
comfort of having it.
Yeah.
It's a cheaper rate.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or Wednesday and
Yeah.
Thursday, so that's. why
Yeah,
it's not
September's fine.
September works.
Yeah.
All right,
Good.
well, can we put that in
I'm
for
gonna make
November?
a note to move that to the fall.
Okay. Thank you, Greg.
Yeah.
I don't know why we haven't done
Every
this,
year
because
we-
every year we've discussed it.
Let's lay the iron fist down.
That's right. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. All
It's an
right,
amazing trip.
it is.
I hope they get good weather,
I do too.
because we haven't had a lot of good
Yeah.
days.
Yeah. Well, now that they moved it back to later in May, it's been better. When it was at the beginning of May, it was rough. There were some, yeah, it is.
Sure can.
We're going to go into closed session, but we're going to do the superintendent's report first. Just in case there's anything you guys want to do.
Sure.
So, you want to go ahead with that?
Well, some of mine is pretty, I can be expedient because Shelley really did a nice job of covering quite a bit of it. But I wanted to make sure I took an opportunity to thank the board for helping out so much with Teacher Appreciation Week. It was really nice to see all the surprises and all the folks smiling with all the treats. So thanks to each of you. It was a lot of fun. And thanks again for getting yourselves and your families out to the polls and helping with the election. We had the highest winning percentage of any of the counties that are represented in the ISD at 77%. So applause to everyone who got to the polls and voted. Nice work, nice work. It carried in every voting precinct except for 3, and those 3 were all the way up at the very top of Emmet County. And I think they're closer to maybe Sheboygan even than they are. So I don't know. And I think the losing numbers in those were like 11-7, 8 to 6. I mean, it was very few people. So, but it really passed with a strong win margin. I think overall 71 or 72%. Again, as Shelley mentioned, prom was a huge success. So thanks to everyone who helped with prom and post prom. Again, without repeating everything Shelley said, the CT Awards banquet and the elementary carnival both were just tremendous experiences for our kids. The CT Awards students were selected for being in the top 10% of their programs. And just a great turnout at the carnival. I must say I don't have a lot of hair, but I walked out with more spun sugar in my hair or on my head than I have hair. There was cotton candy everywhere. It was in my hair, it was in my collar. It was like itching me. I was like, what is going on? But it was a lot of fun. It was neat. Really had a treat last week. I got to go, and Michelle was there as well, and quite a few teachers were there to the Opie Awards dinner at Castle Farms. I'd never been to Castle Farms, so that was quite an experience.
You should have been there in the 70s.
That actually came up. We started talking because I was impressed with the venue, and folks like, I saw Aerosmith here. Yeah, so it was pretty cool. Yeah, I got to hear some of those stories. But we
These are the Pointer Sisters.
We digress.
Our district's faculty honored Liz Washer as this year's recipient of the Opie Award, and it was neat. We had a great turnout there and a nice meal, and the weather was good, so it was fun. Finance and personnel update continues with the 2 new teachers we just hired, a couple more to go. I'm in the process of soliciting additional applications, and I'll be back in touch with the interview committee once we have some folks we're ready to bring up in a group to interview. And so looking forward to getting the hiring process finalized. The earlier we do this, in my opinion, the better. Sometimes you can do it too early if you don't have a general idea about your budget, but there's certain programs and classes that obviously we know we have to fill. So it helps to get out early and find outstanding candidates. Ongoing budget discussions in Lansing. We have multiple proposals that are coming out. The governor's proposal and the House version are essentially identical. The Senate version is markedly different. They get rid of a lot of categoricals and just want to put all the funding increase into the pupil foundation allowance, which is cleaner and neater, but losing the categoricals may create issues as well. The nice thing is all the proposals show a $1 increase. Some it's more of a money in, money out with considerations for lost categoricals or retirement rate increase, but $50 to $75 up per pupil is probably a conservative estimate. That's what business managers are hearing. That's what districts are being asked to think about as they're planning the budget for the following year. And for us, if it's 50, that's about 16,000. If it's 75, that's about 24,000. It could go as high as about 100 or 111 per pupil. That's a little on the upper end, so we're playing it a little more conservative. 16 to 24,000 is that range. Technology updates, as we heard earlier, online testing is underway, and I haven't been in there to watch the kindergartners with that experience, but I'll bet that is fun. Hey, building that keypad computer literacy early, that's a good idea. And so I did get some information from Steve, who couldn't be here tonight. He's running the track meet or helping run it. Our labs are performing extremely well. We've had a couple of little glitches, but they're really not lab related. It was just more bandwidth related, which I'll touch on the next page here. We are looking at a few more machines to expand the seating capacity, but overall the labs have performed admirably. But we do have and have reached on a couple of occasions almost maxing out our bandwidth that's currently available. So I've made calls on this topic, and so has Steve. We work through COP ESD, Sheboygan, Otsego, Presqu'île, and they are our internet pipeline. The good news is some of the things that we lamented about a year or two ago, the DOCSIS 3 switches, which are the really fast switches that allow your bandwidth to open, are being installed. And so it looks like some of the infrastructure roadblocks that didn't allow us to get the 100 meg service some years ago when they ran that, I guess, that corridor up and bypassed this stretch of M88 is coming through. And so they're saying 3 to 5 times as much bandwidth as we're currently running right now, which is 20 megs, should be available midsummer. Now, they're also saying at no rate increase, which is pretty exciting. So we're looking at some E-rate funds and some other things to see if we can make that happen. We know as we and as our staff work more with technology as a piece of that instructional platform, that not throttling down your bandwidth is a big concern. So we want to make sure that we maximize our bandwidth, especially if it's at no cost. Internally, just to build on what's here on the page, we know we probably have a few routers and a few switches we'll need to change out for the wireless, but for the most part, we're ready. Campus beautification is this Friday from 4 to 7. Lisa was here earlier, and she's done a nice job of helping get that organized. I know, Greg, you've already talked to me and to Lisa. We always have a great group of faculty and staff that turn out and help, and more hands make light work. So this Friday we'll hope for nice weather and spread some mulch, pull some weeds, and don't let me pull weeds because I tend to pull anything and everything in screens. So I'll maybe spread mulch, but if you know what you're doing and you know what's a weed and what's not a weed, come help, and we'd appreciate it.
Do they need anything in particular that mulch or?
We've got mulch coming in, and there's a bunch here already. So we'll have mulch, and just, you know, if you have a pair of gloves or a rake or something like that.
Is it bulk? Did I see the mulch? Is it bulk or is it in packages?
It's bulk. It's bulk.
Right.
Trailer delivered, yeah. And so we've got a couple huge weekends coming. We've got the dance recital this weekend, so we want to make sure that this happens right before that on Saturday and Sunday, and then graduation the next weekend. As I say it's mind-boggling how fast this is. The spring is just, ever since we got to spring break, it's been boom.
And then the 4th of July.
Right. Right. We're going to be there before we know it. And that's my thing.
Well, thank you very much. Before we go into closed session, are there any closing guests or public comments that you would like to make? I appreciate
Really
you all
enjoy to
being
watch
here.
you guys at work compared to some of the meetings we go to.
Well, that's nice to hear.
Yeah,
It is. We've been to some interesting meetings.
Boring is good?
They weren't boring.
No. No.
Oh, no, this is great.
I do want to thank the board, the administration for this, because my wheels are turning right now, so I can get up and get rolling here, so.
All right.
So thank you,
You're welcome.
and I'll get with
Thank you.
Dan and, within the next week and 2 weeks and say these are what we'd like to have up here.
Great.
Maybe do an update later in the summer or the fall, let us know how things went, and if, you know, if there's other things that you're.
Yes. I think so. I hope so. Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Hey, and Susie, thank you for all the things you do.
Yeah.
I mean, without you, the chamber would.
She's a slave driver.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
People always love to see their name printed.
Bye-bye. Bye. Okay, I will consider a motion to move into closed session at 8:02.
I motion. Second. That's Betsy.
All right.
Betsy.
That's Betsy. And Sarah first. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Then we will go into closed session.